And then we'll wait till everyone gets on before we take roll. So we'll start without quorum. Welcome everyone. This is State Building Co-Council BRFW committee meeting for May 30th, 2025. I'm Todd Byerther. Our chair Roger is going to be gone today. He's asked me to fill in as pro tem unless there's any opposition. All right, so be it. So we'll start. If anyone from the public would like to be recognized before we'll take roll call, go ahead. Now's a good opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Patrick. I think, sorry, we're just adapting to.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington.
Welcome, Patrick.
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Kathleen Petrie, King County.
Welcome, Kathleen. Okay.
I don't see any other hands up.
I don't either. I see 9 attendees. Okay. Okay. We don't have quorum yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Just a few.
So today we're going to have a very focused committee meeting. Roger set this up so that today we're only discussing and potentially taking action on the EV charging proposal. And then if you've seen the schedule, the next 2 or 3 BRFW meetings will be only or primarily focused on the embodied carbon amendment. So we'll skip over then our agenda items 2 and 3 that need quorum. I think we can get right into and start talking about the content here in agenda item 4, and then when we see we have quorum, we'll go back to take roll. So with that, if you remember where we left off, we had we decided to have one more meeting, and at the request, I think Patrick, it was you to have one more opportunity to make edits to the current version that we've had posted a couple meetings now. You sent those. Thank you. That's in front of us here. I believe this is Patrick's document. Is that correct, Brennan?
I will confirm that.
Okay. No, I think it is. If you scroll down. Yep. So this is the introductory page. Patrick, thank you for that. I've gone through and reviewed it. Roger gave me a couple notes so we can kind of talk through sections one by one. I think that's the best way to go about this. If you can go a little further, Brennan, to the kind of the code language there. Right here. Okay, this one helps me a lot because the version I have, I was having trouble seeing these edits like this. Patrick, is this the correct one? Patrick, do you have the ability? Maybe we can raise Patrick up to a panelist.
I'll raise him up to a panelist. 1 second.
Angela, is there anything else you'd like to say before we kind of jump into this? Not to put you on the spot.
No, I'm just, no, I looked over it and stuff, and having Patrick go through and discuss it, that's great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Patrick, floor's yours.
All right. Thank you. You can see me now.
Well, you can see and hear you. Yep.
Yeah, so I tried to add in the exceptions that we talked about, and I'm open to if there's things we want to tweak on those or whatever. I just tried to put in exactly what we talked about. And then I noticed as I was going through this that some of the grammar on the terminology was very inconsistent. So I tried to I cleaned that up, and I decided to propose switching it to better match the IECC and national language. And I've seen this, the EVSE language, I've seen that used in other states, and I feel like it matches better with the technical terminology. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on. So if we want to go back to EV capable, EV ready, EV charging stations, the committee can do that, or I can send you a different version that has that. And then I tried to clean it up and make sure it's all being consistent throughout. And if I miss something, happy to add that in. And then I just tried to tweak some of the definitions, not to change any requirements per se, but just if I felt like they were a little outdated, just to make them in some cases match the model code or just better match with what the code section is doing.
Okay.
And there's a couple small grammatical changes and things. So,
Well, should we, thank you for this, by the way, and Roger's notes kind of agree with my opinion that I think if we're doing this, it is a good opportunity. So if you want to clean this up, this is a good opportunity to do it. We're digging so deep into it already. Angela, I don't know how you feel about that. And so, could we just start the terminology first? Maybe those are the easy ones to go through. Do you like this idea of cleaning up the definitions and aligning with IECC and is there anything that we're going to get caught off guard on by doing this?
Yeah, I was just pulling up the IECC from my premium so that I can actually look at it. Yeah, no, I don't actually have an issue with trying to align better with the base codes. I think I've kind of said a number of times, I don't like when our code creates terms that aren't used anywhere else, and there could be better. One thing I guess with EV and the terminology is, I know the legislature uses specific terms sometimes, and so just so we don't have any conflict with not meeting what they're saying because of a different term, but I don't think it should, as long as they're the same definition. But yeah, no, I'm definitely I'm in favor of aligning with the I codes.
With the I codes.
I think the EVSE, I think that also better matches with the electrical code too. And some of the definitions, I think the definition for EVSE looks like it had been pulled or inspired from the electrical code definition. So I felt like it just better fits with kind of everything else.
And Patrick, do you remember in that meeting, we had that deep dive meeting about a month or two ago, and that the electrical, it was an inspector that joined us. I forget his name, and that's the terminology he also was using, just kind of the standard.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think that one makes sense. I mean, I'm not accusing you of anything. There's nothing sneaky in here that we.
And if somebody feels like something changed more substantially, that wasn't necessarily my intent. Anything that was sort of a bigger change in definition, I was doing it just to match what the code is doing. And if we change something in the code, happy to change the definition, just trying to get it so it's all consistent and it doesn't feel like you read the code language and it says one thing, but then the definition says something else.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a good contribution. So what this would take is this section we're looking at here. This is all new though, right? This would have to be introduced into chapter 202. So this would all be underlined, right?
No, I did the underlining and the crossing out to be based off what the current code says. So these are definitions that are in the current code, but just changing the terminology and then deleting the EV charger definition because I felt like it wasn't being used accurately.
Okay, thank you. I didn't do my homework on that. So this is the actual correct format then.
The technical explanation for that is in 90% of cases, the actual EV charger is located inside of the electric vehicle, and the EVSE, the external thing that we call the charger, that's not the charger. It's just supplying electrical current to the internal charger.
Okay. And just, I think we all know where we are here. The goal here is that this is an amendment. We're trying to make a recommendation as a committee, pass it back up to the council so that the council next week could potentially forward this on with the rest of the package that's already moving forward to get filed for CR 102 sometime in probably July.
Sure.
Okay. So there's plenty of time to still catch things if we need to. We just want to get something filed in CR 102.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know the specifics, but I think also if there's like an electrical inspector or someone from the public
Yeah.
point something out during public comment, it's not uncommon for the council to make, technical tweaks or necessary things at final adoption, so. And that's part of the purpose of public comment, so.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, is there a reason you didn't go with the actual, like, exact definitions? I mean, they're slightly different.
From the
from
IECC.
the IECC.
Well, since what I proposed last time was much more drastic, I tried this time to stay as closely as possible to like what we're currently doing and just kind of make small tweaks. And then I was
Okay.
thinking for 2027 we can explore the more drastic switch. But I thought kind of ripping the Band-Aid off now and at least getting the terminology to match would make
Okay.
a transition smoother in the future.
Okay. Yeah,
What do you?
I have to look closer to see if the exact wording, if there's any differences between them that would make a difference if we just swapped them out, but yeah, okay, no, I totally understand that.
Yeah, I support both. I mean, I know we talked. I think when I made a comment last time, it was more. It's just structurally, it's a lot to edit the whole thing, but
Yep.
So I guess we could decide right now, though. Do we want to do it now, or do we want to do it in 2027? I think that's a good plan too. So.
And the builders and members I spoke with, they didn't have an issue with the terminology changing, so I don't
Okay.
think it will cause that much issue with the industry.
Okay.
No, I think the terminology changing is good so that the terminology is accurate and matching. I just, again, before I say, yeah, I'd like to see the definitions actually fully swapped out. I need to do a better side by side on them, just to make sure that the words and stuff that are missing aren't going to change what we're asked to do. But, so
Okay.
right now, this is fine. Yeah.
Okay. I think
And-
that. Go ahead.
I
Patrick.
think I sent you I sent an original version to everybody, and then I sent a revised version. I don't know if I sent the revised version blank copy to all of you, but I sent it as a Word document, so you can. This is in reviewing mode in Word, so you can click the little sidebar, and then it will show what it would look like with those changes adopted, which can make it a little bit easier to read.
Okay, well, and that's what I was referring to. Maybe the version I have that you emailed, I didn't have the code.
The code language didn't change. There
Yeah.
was a couple things in my analysis I needed to tweak, so.
Okay, so for purposes of this meeting, do we want to accept these changes in this section and move on? Is that the best way to do it, you think? Or the fact that it's on screen, we're fine, and we'll do that after.
If you don't have a quorum and you're not gonna be able to meet before the council meeting, you could just, well, I guess I don't know if you can do it without a quorum, but you could send it to the council and then adopt the changes there with the BFRW recommendation.
Yeah. Brandon, I just meant, do we want to actually accept in the Word doc here, so we lock it in?
I don't know that we can do that without the quorum.
Oh, I just meant for the purposes of, as we're reviewing this here, we could,
Yeah,
but we don't have to do it now either. I think it's clear. Okay, let's, if we're ready there, let's scroll down to the next section, 429.
Okay, so this is the first exception where if a utility can't provide 100% of the necessary capacity within a certain time frame, that so that it would kind of the utility would certify that in writing, and then the building official can work with the builder to figure out, okay, what capacity can they provide, and then adjusting the requirements to be based off that. And I pulled this comes directly from the 2024 IECC Appendix RE. So this is an exception that's in the national residential version of the EV charging language. And I think this is relevant because I actually spoke to an elected official in Pierce County, and they had an issue where there was an apartment complex, and PSE was saying it wasn't going to be able to provide power in this time frame, and so that was causing issues. There's not a lot, because the 2021 code just went into effect fairly recently. I don't know that there's a lot of buildings that have been built yet under that code. So I don't know if we'll know the full extent of what the problem is at this point, but I think that this is a potential issue. So having an exception in there so that we're not delaying housing production because the utility can't provide power would be really good.
So Patrick, I get this one, and I talked to one utility in depth about this a couple months ago and tried to understand their perspective on it, and I'm a little more torn on this, and not from the intent, but whether or not this really, I get that it's in the code, in the I code, but what challenges me is the request from utility on a different topic was keep the codes out of that business of, sizing transformers and so forth. Like that should be a negotiation between the owner and the utility and the jurisdiction. And this one just always catches me as putting something in the code that should really be more about between the local jurisdiction, the owner, and the utility. Am I reading that wrong?
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at, for a large apartment complex, you're adding a tremendous electrical load to their building or to the property. And in terms of scale, with how much housing we're trying to build to deal with the housing crisis, which is good, which is what we want to do, right? But then you add in all of we're trying to electrify buildings for heating, space heating and water heating, and then we're trying to add in all this EV charging infrastructure. At scale, you're talking about adding tens of thousands of gigawatt hours of consumption, just consumption, to the grid, let alone that they then need to produce more power than what is being consumed due to losses, and then also they try to have only a certain capacity of actually being used. So I think it's a big issue. I think the housing crisis didn't develop overnight. It took a few years to get there. And to me, it feels like we're kind of on the precipice of a little bit of an electricity crisis where we're adding lots and lots and lots of consumption, but we're not producing enough capacity to meet that demand.
Yeah, I get it. And Angela, why don't you go first?
So I was just going to point out that this exception in the IECC is only for 1 and 2 family dwellings. And this section here, we're talking about the IBC, not the IRC.
Sure.
So the IECC does not have this exception for multifamily or commercial buildings. It's a different appendix.
Yep.
So
I decided to just pull in the code language, but I thought if you decide you don't want to have that apply to all, I think it would be good to apply to all buildings, because you're not saying that they can't put in 0. They have to put in something, but it's what the utility can provide. But if you decide you want to scale it back, you could say it only applies to like R2, or you could narrow what it applies to.
Yeah. Again, I get the intent and don't disagree necessarily with the concept. I just struggle with using the building code, having this contingency or having this ability of a utility to kind of overwrite some of the intent of the building code. I feel like this can be addressed in a different way.
yeah.
How would they address that if the code says you have to put in a certain number, but the utility is saying they can't provide power for that?
Well, but I think the reason that, again, that it's exempted for single family versus or single family, 2-family townhouses, whatever, that it's exempted from that and not the commercial or the IBC is because the IBC, they're providing a lot more parking. it's going to be for a lot more people, and it's going to be for an extended period of time. So it's going to be there. So like for 2 years. So I can see why you would still want to have that ability sort of in those buildings. Whereas for single family and things like that, you don't want to cause them to incur a cost that they may never realize any benefit from. So I think this exception was sort of aimed at those structures in an attempt to say, yeah, let's not nickel and dime them and things like that. Where I think for commercial, I don't think we should, be saying, okay, if we're not maybe going to be able to power it for 2 years, we shouldn't do it. Because the fact is that, I mean, right now they're having to retrofit buildings that have been there for 10 years in order to provide these things for their tenants and things like that. And so I just think that having the infrastructure there doesn't hurt. Again, because we're not talking about providing the equipment, sizing the systems. We already talked about not making people do that. So I don't think that there's a need for this exemption to just provide the infrastructure in there. Personally.
The EV charging infrastructure used in this section broadly applies to the 3 different categories. So EVSE, EV ready, and EV capable. My intent was that, let's say that multifamily building is getting built and the utility saying, hey, we can't provide power for that 20 to 30% of spaces that need it, but we can do 15. Then they'd certify that in writing. You go to the building official, say, okay, we're going to put in 10% EVSE, we're going to put in 5% EV ready, and then that other 5% EV ready, they could add that on to EV capable. So then when the utility is able to provide it, or they need it, they can add it in later. If we need to tweak the code language to match that, I'm fine with that. And we could add it and have it apply just specifically to R2 buildings. But I feel like, we're pushing for a lot more multifamily construction in the state. And sometimes that falls under the IBC, if it's 4 stories, if it's dwelling units are accessed through interior corridors, that often ends up in the IBC. So I think there's a lot of that kind of middle housing and multifamily housing that we're pushing for that's going to fall under the IBC.
Patrick, maybe another way I'll ask the question. The thing that hangs me up is the term definite here in like the 2 years, which is very short, by the way. And I struggle with why is that not already covered under 1, that there would be a, agreement established between the utility, the owner, and the jurisdiction up front if there's commercial power supply. If we know that it's not going to be possible to supply this thing within some term that they're going to discuss 10, 20, 30 years, right? I don't feel it's the building codes, it should be in the building code how to establish that negotiation between those parties. But maybe others feel differently. It's just so specific about 2 years, and it's just it feels like it's establishing a loophole.
Yeah, that's the ICC language. It's not probably how I would write it if I were to come up with something, but I don't know, they might know more than me. Angela, you have more perspective on the building official, the jurisdiction side. Do you think that under number 1 could something like this happen if the utility couldn't provide 100% of the power they need?
Well, I'm not from a small jurisdiction. I mean, because number 1 is basically saying that the building isn't on commercial power.
That's how I read it.
So I mean, that's saying that it's on a totally different situation.
Okay.
Like it's fully solar, or I mean, it's
Yeah.
So that is different than what would be 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sometimes the formatting didn't quite work, so that would need to be number 3. Looks like it didn't carry over properly.
Yeah, trust me, if you've ever dealt with CDP access on the ICC site, yeah. Anyway, this is so
Good luck
think
trying
I
to deal
could-
with that, Brandon.
Probably, I could probably get behind some sort of this number 3, but kind of like Todd mentioned, that 2 years is really short. I mean, you might as well just say if today you can't offer it, you don't have to do it. I mean, 2 years is just really short. So I would definitely span that out a bit. But
Do you want it longer or just get away with it? Like
no, longer.
okay, longer,
Um,
5 years?
But I don't know how to establish that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I don't know, I guess, in the state of Washington, how often would this occur? And again, because I mean, my jurisdiction, there's not a power issue, most of the west side, you're not going to, run into this. So I am not familiar enough with where this would happen.
I mean, the case I've heard about it was in Pierce County. It was in Tacoma. So
In Tacoma,
yeah,
they couldn't provide the, huh.
I mean,
Hmm. Okay, see, and that's where maybe I'm not familiar enough.
no, I wish we had just so much, dams and nuclear
yeah.
facilities generating plenty of power, but you know,
Oh yeah,
I know,
no,
but
I
that-
totally understand that. I mean, there is an infrastructure question, and I've had it myself. I'm just not sure. Kind of, I think what Todd's getting at is how we determine what that is.
I think the intent of 2 years, it's basically just trying to get it so you can get the certificate of occupancy without causing, a big delay.
Okay. So it's basically, this is so that you can get the permit, build it, and by the end of construction, you can't supply the proper amount of electricity to the building to run all of the spaces, and therefore not holding up occupant. Okay, final.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we need to ground ourselves here. We're talking about the highest level where you actually install the EVSE. I
Or
guess
the
it's
EV,
not
the EV ready.
and EV ready. It's not waiving the requirement to have the capable. What are we calling it now?
Capable, still EV capable.
Capable. Thank
It's
you.
the charging stations that changed.
So I
Okay.
guess so.
And we could clarify that. We could say they can reduce the number of EVSE or EV ready and convert it to EV capable. So that it's
Yeah, I
clear.
know. Yeah, you had kind of indicated that like you couldn't make the 5%, so it gets pushed down the line. I think at the very least that would need to be there, that any percentage that you can't actually meet needs to be transitioned into one of the other types. So,
Which would just make sense to be the lowest capable.
because I guess, yeah, again, refresh my memory, the middle one provides
So
wiring and everything.
EV cable's like just the raceway.
Okay.
EV ready is the raceway wiring to an outlet with a panel and everything else. And then the EVSE has the actual supply equipment attached either directly into the line or into the outlet.
Okay.
And what Patrick has raised a good point in the different section is the way we should be doing those tables is that they all are considered together, because
Yes.
and what I hope we're cleaning up here is that the EV SE, the highest level, is based off of this code cycle, the investment, the near-term investment of what the adoption, well, it's actually, we're at a minimum right now of 10%, but it should be what the adoption rate is right now in the next 3 years. The next level should be more on that financing, 5-10 years, so forth. And that final one should be some projection that we're required to do. But that last one we think it's gonna land at 60% if we ground ourselves in. Am I doing that number right? And that's why it landed at 40%.
60% all added up, 10, 10, and 40.
That's my point, right? It's the sum. And so if you change that first one, you need to add it to make sure we stay at that 60. Yeah.
It ends up being 60 to 70% because you have to calculate each one individually and then round up. So
I guess then, is there a reason that we wouldn't push from the actual EV charging to the ready? Because I mean, you're not actually providing.
I feel like
electricity
for this, those two are kind of the same thing because
except you're not providing the equipment.
but you
which
still
is
have to
what-
provide the power.
I agree. That's how I feel about it too, is that requiring the investment in an asset like a wire or something like that, if we know we're not going to have that power there, it feels like it should slide all the way to the lowest category. But
I thought we were doing an exemption that wasn't requiring us to size the equipment
correct.
based on the last two categories. It was only sized based on the first category, or is it actually being sized on the?
It's we're removing the sizing requirements for the EV capable, but the ready includes the wires and the outlet and the panel board and then
Transformer.
the transformer.
And
Yeah.
the transformer. So
And
the transformer has to be large enough to provide for both those categories. Okay,
Correct.
then I agree with pushing it down the line because
Part of that is the workaround to meet the RCW says that 20% of that the sizing has to be for a minimum of 20% of parking spaces. So
that's right. Okay. All right.
there's a reason for the madness.
It is three-dimensional for sure, what we're trying to do here.
I agree. I was thinking we were saying that you didn't have to size the transformers for the middle category. And if we are, then there isn't a reason to size those based on stuff that we can't even be provided. So yeah, okay, I got you.
So
now.
do you still feel like the 2 years needs to be longer?
I guess I mean, I understand now what that 2 years, what you're talking about, that it's basically just to get you to final and be
Yeah.
able to move on.
It should align with that middle category. And I don't know if we have only conceptually defined what, like I just said, that aligns more with that 10-year horizon, that 6 to 10 year horizon that aligns with financing, aligns with the way cities do 6-year, budgets, the way opportunity zones and tax credits and so forth. But that's just a concept of how we would justify this. I don't think we have that anywhere established that that's what we're doing.
I actually think not having it too long is better because like if you made it like 10 years, that could delay your certificate of occupancy, which for housing, which would just drastically increase the cost or just kill the project. So having it, I feel like 2 years is probably pretty good for a building being built under the IBC. But can maybe even actually shorter could be better, but I'm fine with matching the IECC language.
I'm going to.
It's basically like how long do you feel like housing should be delayed if there's a hang up with the utility power?
Well, except that we're not saying that we're holding up occupancy until that time. Like, so if we changed it to 5 years, we're not saying that you don't get occupancy for 5 years. We're saying that if they say they can't provide power, then we're going to let you have a smaller amount. Even if we said in 10 years, if they say in 10 years, we're not going to be able to provide this, then again, it wouldn't hold up occupancy. It would have an effect of requiring maybe more spaces than it would have at, say, the 2-year mark. Because at 2 years, they may be able to do 10 spaces. At 5 years, they might be able to do 15. So that's kind of what that year says. yeah, it's not saying how long you have to wait to use the building. So I wouldn't mind getting a little more input on that year, on that time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find a way that we just strike with, the time frame and the whole reference to estimated certificate of occupancy date. I'm not sure what that is yet, though.
Yeah.
Because conceptually, I understand it now. If you can't meet it within a certain time period, you shouldn't have to put the EVSE or the EV ready, assets in place if you can't capitalize them. So,
I'm sending a question out to Quinn in Tacoma to
Okay.
ask about how this actually applied to them, just so I can get an idea of what happened and what we're talking about, to be able to understand a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, conceptually, I can now get behind this. It's just that 2 years I'm not sure on right now, I think.
Do you want it to apply specifically to group R, R2,
Not sure.
R2, R4,
Um,
R2D2?
yeah, it's
you.
why are you getting so specific on that? I mean, I understand why someone would want that, but why is it, do we need to get that specific on occupancy?
Yeah,
If
mean,
you
I
just,
think-
if you feel like it only is meant to apply to like residential and not commercial, since it did come from the residential appendix.
But I think the concept is if it's not there, it's not there.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes. It's just,
So
Yeah, everything just revolves around making housing more affordable, so.
yeah, no, I get
I'm
it.
fine with making
I understand
everything
where you're
more
coming from,
affordable,
Patrick. Yeah,
but,
I understand who
that's-
you're representing. I'm just saying, yeah, I think if it's not there, it's not there, and it should just,
okay.
the
Yeah.
better code is that it just applies to everything then. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we're gonna have a whole nother big discussion on this once it hits the whole council too, so.
Sure. And then I was thinking I could also clarify that they should probably still size the electrical room for 20%, so that way they have the space to put in, panel boards and transformers and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we can make this complicated quickly. Is there just a
Or we
very
can just leave it up
clean,
to the jurisdiction to figure out.
is there just a very clean way to say we're shifting from category 1 and 2 to category 3, right? To capable. I think that would be the cleanest way to address this exception. So it leaves, it's not a loophole, but it is allowing for that decision to be made with the jurisdiction, owner, and utility. And if any, in our current format, we don't see if other people from the public want to have a good suggestion. So raise your hand. I guess that's the best way to engage here. So we can bring you up to a panelist.
We do have a couple of hands up. Would you like me to bring them up to the panelists?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not monitoring that. I didn't see those. I wasn't trying to not engage others. I think we just bring them up to panelists. We have such a small group here. We can, we know everyone here. So go ahead, Brett. First, I see Brett, Kathleen, and
Great.
is it Altane? So we'll do Brett first. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm an architect and I live mostly in the industrial sector. So I will go out to a group of people that might be able to comment on whether they're running into problems with active projects today, actually getting power for EV. So I'll bring that back to the group. As we refine the language, we may want to touch the first sentence of the exception, the electrical vehicle charging infrastructure. That may be too broad because is that conduit, box, wire. So, if you don't have to provide anything, if you don't have the power, that might not be where we want to go. The notion of dropping down a step to the EV capable if the power isn't there. That seems like a reasonable approach where it provides all the infrastructure for the overall goal, and then you kind of hook it up when the power is available. So those are two little thoughts there.
Thank you, Brett. And Brandon, I don't know if you have just that whole section so we can kind of see it in the context of the
I do not have that pulled up, but I can work on that real
okay,
quick.
yeah, when convenient. Thank you. Okay, I figured it was next. Kathleen, thank you, Brett.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I guess I'm a little bit confused on how today is being conducted, so maybe you can provide some clarification. For example, I didn't see these comments posted until yesterday, so have not had a time to look through them. And it's posted under the BFRW section, so I'm not understanding if these are BFRW's modifications, or if this is a conglomeration between BIAW and BFRW committee?
No, I can speak to that. So if my memory is correct, where we left it last time is we had for 1 or 2 meetings posted that version that I did. And then the request was, Patrick made the request in the last meeting that we were all part of to make some amendments. And I think the direction was, as Patrick's done here, to actually use that posted language and modify, because we had talked about your amendment, we had talked about his amendment that was given almost on the in that old petition format. And now we're saying, okay, we've grounded ourselves on this base BRFW language. Now, if you have any last, edits to that, put it in that language. That's what Patrick submitted, and we posted it yesterday in time for this meeting. So yes, you're correct. It was yesterday when we all started looking at this, and that's the intent of this meeting, is that we walk through it, those proposed changes.
So we only had a handful of hours to review this as other folks that would be interested in providing comment. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, and that's the purpose of this meeting. Again, we're in a long process here, and we all got it yesterday and are reviewing it, and I believe we posted it in time for in terms of our public meeting, in terms of our APA requirements. If I'm wrong on that, correct me, please. But
No, I'll have to look back at council bylaws or whatnot. And so will other comments be looked at? I guess it wasn't super clear to me last time that this was going to be the pathway forward, because we hadn't gone through all of the BIAW's proposed comments last meeting. We got through the definitions and a portion, I think, of some of the sections, but it was not clear that this was going to then be the core document from which the BFRW would basically be sponsoring.
no, I'm sorry, just to be clear, and we can review the notes and the recording and
Sure,
everything,
sure.
but my understanding was we took action as a committee to say, this is the base language, the one that I wrote, and we've looked at now for 2 meetings. And then when we were looking over the petitions, the edited petitions from you and Patrick, and I can't remember, last time, we said, okay, but now we're on this base document. You have to make edits to review in this committee in actual code language. And so Patrick had requested, and so we delayed action last time to have 1 more meeting, and this meeting was scheduled just on this topic to review this.
So will we review other code proposals that were provided? Other revisions?
Well, we did last time, remember, on the petitions.
We did not review King County's proposal. So I'm curious if all proposals are going to be heard or if they will not be.
Well, we can always talk about it, here and now. We did go over that petition, and we have reviewed it, and we decided not to move forward with those proposed changes. So these were, additional edits that Patrick had requested to submit based off that document. So we got very close last time, I feel, but now these are the final edits. And when I say final, only the final in this committee. We're trying to move this forward to CR 102 rulemaking, which technically is the beginning of the process of the public process to and then have 2 public hearings in October. So there is still time to keep going on this, but this is where, if anyone has a different opinion of what happened, and Angela, why don't you go ahead as the council member and help me here, please, since
Yeah.
Roger was chairing. Yep.
Yeah, so from my recollection, we made a motion and we agreed that this would be, that we had, your document would be our base document, that any revisions would be made to that to be moved forward. And that was kind of a combination between the submittals of other things, kind of. It incorporated different people's stuff. And so, yeah, we had made the agreement, and then we were making changes as we were going in the meeting to the document. And then, yeah, it was moved there, or asked that we kind of postpone a little bit so that changes could be submitted for this document again and move forward with it. And so that's what Patrick did. Was Patrick has submitted changes to the base document that we had developed, or you had developed, and then the committee. And so that's where any changes are supposed to be directed, is at this one. So it wasn't that we ignored anyone's submittals or proposals. It was just that everything was combined into one document, and that is now what we're working off of.
Thank you, Angela. And Kathleen, that base document is the same that I sent you after our phone conversation about a month ago, and the one that you did provide proposed edits to. And we can bring that back up just to make sure everyone's tracking what we're talking about. My memory is, though, that we did, as a committee, we did not adopt those proposed edits to the base document. Is yours different?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I don't recall even having an opportunity to look at that. I don't recall them being pulled up, and I can go back and look at them.
Well, that's okay. We can, and I'm happy we can pull it up
The
here. That's the
video.
purpose of today's meeting. So if you'd like to pull up your edits from last month, we can do that.
We can
sure.
do that following this
Okay.
particular.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's totally
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, thank you.
Not trying to block anything by any means. This is the purpose of this meeting. So, okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity. Just had a quick comment, and you may have covered this in previous meetings, but several years ago, we had Puget Sound Energy Review, a transformer that served a group of townhome buildings, and we discovered that there was only capacity for one 40-amp EV charging circuit in the whole place. And at the time, that meant one charging station. But now we have load limiting and load management systems. So I don't know if you are considering that, because now you could serve 4 parking spaces with that 40-amp circuit. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I won't comment. We'll come back to it if Alden, are you gonna speak to that or something else?
No, it's something else, and I'll admit. So I'm Alton with Climate Solutions, and I did come with like a prepared comment, and I don't. It seems that this is a slightly less formal than than I had envisioned, but I do have a public comment kind of to share. So I
Okay.
just don't know exactly when to jump in with that. So I wanted to ask.
Okay, let's hold on that just 1 second. And you trust your instincts. We're trying to conduct this in a very open forum, in a open committee meeting. So this is a working session, but we're required to have it in very public, obviously public meeting. So that's how we conduct this, just like we do with more like the technical advisory groups. So whereas in the council, it's harder to do this type of work. Okay, let's come back to that then. Jeremy, let's unpack that a little bit. So maybe this is, Brandon, where we need to pull up just the whole code so we can ground everybody in where those sections are and where the load balancing or the where that is referenced and what that applies to and doesn't apply to.
Okay.
Is that possible, or still want a second there?
Still just a second. I'm
okay. We'll come back.
working.
Yeah. Jeremy, it's not my deep level expertise, obviously. I've had these conversations with utilities also. You know, what I need to better understand, we've had conversations about this and where the actual requirement is that when you relate to those EV ready and EV installed, the EVSE spaces. Can someone speak to that the requirement is they all have the ability to charge at once? That's been brought up many times in these forums. And then that the ability to balance that load is a different, we'll have to look at the code. And you're probably more of an expert on this than I am.
I guess it kind of points to, you know, the utility making that decision, you know, because working with, you know, a developer or whoever, you know, contractor, what have you, because it kind of, you know, there are systems available that will serve more parking spaces than you would think would be possible.
Well,
yeah.
No, and I don't think anyone disagrees with you. One of the hard bottoms we have here is in statute that says 40 amp.
Yeah.
I've talked to utilities that say they want to put a 16 amp, you know, service in there. I think that's sufficient to do a level 2 charge or something, you know, I mean, a smaller, you know, trickle charge, right?
Yeah.
We're held to statute though. So that was one of the bottoms that I've heard many times in these discussions.
Yeah. And there are systems that require 40 amp circuits, you know, but they're controlled. So yeah, it's, you know, the wiring is the same.
Yeah.
But it's just the control software.
Okay, thank you, Brenny.
Yeah.
I think pulling the whack up is good too. So, okay, let's find the references towards.
Are you talking about the automatic load management system?
Yep. For the where that what that applies to.
429.3.
0.3. Okay. Because that was and that's kind of my memory. It applies mainly to what is called electric rooms and equipment. We made a couple proposed amendments to that, right?
Oh, okay. I see what you're what you're talking about. Thank you.
But that doesn't apply to the actual spaces.
You
right?
still have to put in 40 amp and size for that.
Correct.
But it basically just allows the total load capacity, or it allows it to like charge at a minimum of 16 amp. It depends. What it does is it looks at like if you have 10 spaces and 7 EVs all plugged in, it's going to look at what needs how much power where, and it's going to balance that out instead of putting 40 amps to each spot simultaneously. That's how it's been explained to me. I'm not an electrician. I just want to.
Yeah, that's the conversation we're having. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Though.
Okay. Thanks for, yeah. I mean, the exception really kind of covers it there, I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's go back.
Shall we
please.
just run through the other two?
Yeah, and then I'll come back to Alt-Nay to your, unless you'd like to jump in now.
To talk about the recommendation.
Well, let's finish what we're doing here, Patrick.
Oh,
let's
okay.
do that. And then we'll go back to Alt-Nay and Kathleen. Okay. Go ahead, Patrick. Brandon, can we pull up Patrick's?
Yes.
Okay, so we didn't finalize a change to that section. Let's circle back. Let's go on to the next one, and I think we understand what we want to do there.
So yeah, okay. So the first thing on this page is I saw the commercial IECC approached mixed occupancy a little bit differently. And I know this has been an issue before. There's been a question about interpretation, council's rule on. So I tried to provide some flexibility in how they can calculate that, incorporating some of the IECC language. but then I think I added in, sorry, I've been dealing with the energy code stuff. I'm trying to remember everything I did here. So what I tried to do is if they have a mixed occupancy, but they have parking spaces that are designated for one occupancy, or for each occupancy, that they can calculate those separately, or they can do what the IECC has, which is calculate based off proportionally based off the floor area of each building. So it gives them flexibility of options, but still trying to make it so that, you know, they're providing the requirements that they should be for the spaces that are sort of intended for that occupancy.
So conceptually, if I understand where we are now, right now, it's only based off spaces, right? And your argument in a couple of these is that you want it to be based off the number of units, and or number of units.
Yeah,
and-
that's a separate thing. This
Right.
This is just trying to clarify how to calculate proportionally, or how to do it for mixed occupancy.
But 429.2 right now, when it says calculation shall be rounded up to the nearest whole number, it's just based off the spaces. There's no consideration of occupancy or units or so forth, right? It was simpler.
The SBCC got a question, I think it was from Bellevue, on how to do mixed occupancy, and the official opinion that the SBCC issued was that it's based off only the number of required parking spaces by local ordinance, which I actually don't think fits what the RCW says. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Okay. Angela, you still with us? Did we lose Angela?
No, I'm here. I was just sorry. I was pulling up the table
Okay.
from the 21 code so I can look. So basically what we're talking about mixed occupancies is residential and non-residential. I mean, we're not talking about a mixed occupancy of A, B, whatever. It's those two. So that's where I'm trying to.
Yeah. And the intent here is I'm not trying to like drastically change the code one way or the other. I was just trying to clarify an area where I think there was a lot of ambiguity and it was unclear how that should be determined. So
In the table that we're doing, can you go down to table 429.2 for me in this proposal? Yeah. 10, 10, 10, 10, 40. So basically the only thing we're talking about is the EV capable spaces.
well, I think it's groups A, E, and M. The law says that they only have to calculate based off employee spots. So I guess if you theoretically were mixing A and R, then it might be a little bit different than what you think the table says, but it wouldn't be for those like 3 occupancies that have that exception. It wouldn't be based off total parking spaces. It would be based off of employee parking spaces, and that comes from RCW.
So help me, Patrick, here. Again, not speaking against the intent of this, but you think we're getting into some creep here from what we're supposed to be considering on the original petitions of that were only affecting the R occupancy. I mean, I could see how arguments can be made, but is this better addressed? I don't like when people say next code cycle because it's a long ways away.
That's something that the committee has to determine. I thought it was an area where, you know, it's not really increasing or decreasing the stringency. It's just trying to clarify an issue where you got questions about during the cycle, and just trying to make that a little bit clearer and provide better direction for builders and how to determine that.
But since the council already took action on this issue, whether we agree with it or not today, are we we're overwriting, we're using this opportunity, we would be using this opportunity to overwrite that action, right?
The opinion?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, the opinions aren't
I understand. Yeah.
legally binding, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that opinion though,
Well, and I mean,
that opinion was on the 21 code, right? Sorry.
yeah,
And we're talking about making changes for the 24.
and it's the committee's recommendation. So you'd be saying, hey, this is an issue we've gotten questions about. We want to clarify it for the 2024 cycle.
And then my question is, yes, we're addressing something that is related to an amendment that was put in, or a petition that was put in. Where are we drawing the line, and we're starting to creep into, and maybe we already are, you know?
If there's opposition to that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I just thought I'd offer it.
Yeah.
Shall I run through the other two exceptions real quick?
Yeah, why don't you do that? And unless Angela, go ahead if you.
No, I was saying,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So they're listed as 3, but 2 of them are connected. So the first one for our 2 buildings, and this is from the I thought it was from the ICC, but oh yeah, it is. It's from the commercial ICC. So for our 2 buildings, they let them calculate based off the total number of parking spaces or the total number of dwelling units. And I think this is really helpful because in some of that modeling I did, I noticed that there was like some instances, if you have a high ratio of parking spaces to dwelling units, you could end up in a case where you have to provide more spaces with an EV charging infrastructure than you have dwelling units, which I feel like for a state minimum is pretty excessive. For where we're at right now. There might be a future in which there's so many EVs that yes, you want extra spots. So I just thought of including that as an option so that particularly, you know, if like a small 12-unit place has a lot of parking spaces, they don't have to put in more than 12 parking spaces with charging infrastructure. And then the next one is, we had talked about this before, which is, and I mean, I could see a code enforcement going either way on this, but my thought process was the code doesn't really make it clear that if you exceeded in one category, let's say you're building in Bellevue and you say, yeah, you're building for Amazon workers, they have a lot of EVs. So you say, I want to put in 20% EVSE spaces and then meet the code on the other spots. The code doesn't explicitly say, you know, or if you said, I want to convert that EV ready to EVSE, the code doesn't say that if you did that, you would be exempt from having to do the EV ready minimum requirement. So just making it clear that if you exceed one greater category, it can meet the requirements of one of the lesser categories. So that way you're kind of incentivized, you're not penalizing people if they want to go above code. That's the intent of the exception 4 and 5. Or if there's some cases where for various reasons they might not want to do EV capable, they might just want to do, you know, EV ready and EVSE, they could do that and not have to meet add in like extra spaces to meet the minimum EV capable requirement.
Yeah, so just dealing with 4 and 5. I'm just thinking about the way you worded this. I mean, I think that was understood, implied, and we're trying to be very specific here. And right, I don't think anyone has disagreed with that notion that back to that holistic, if it's 60%, that that's the sum of all of them, and we're meeting the minimum requirements of each, right? And if you exceed in one, you should be able to get credit for in the capable, for example, right?
Yeah.
Or does anyone disagree with that? I think that's how we've written our approach. Any other comment on that, Angela? Sneezed.
Yeah, sorry,
Bless
to
you.
mute myself to sneeze there. So yeah, I don't know that 4 and 5 are necessary because EV, EVSE spaces meet the definition of ready or capable. spaces. They just have extra equipment on them, but they meet that. So, I mean, that being said, I mean, common sense doesn't always rule. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know that they implicitly need to be spelled out like that.
And that was Roger's comment. If I'm serving as his proxy, he says, I'm fine with this. It is understood, but certainly codifying it is fine with me. So
Mhm.
if this is a clean way and we don't think this is creating any unintended loopholes, it's,
Mhm.
but I agree with Angela, maybe isn't necessary, but if it's heading off some
Yeah.
misunderstanding or
Yeah.
future opinion, that's fine.
Like I said, common sense does not always rule in the code enforcement.
So
But-
if it's helpful, yeah. Okay, so let's just lock that in then, if that's okay. I reread it one more time. We don't feel it's creating any unintended consequence here. See. And if anyone else has any comments, I'm trying to monitor here. No, I think
Oh, we're keeping it.
we're saying we're okay with it, right?
Yeah.
Or am I speaking for, okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
back
then
to
everything after that is just like grammatical or cleanup.
to align with the new definitions.
Yeah.
Except, did we discuss number 3?
No, I was just going to jump into that, but
Oh, okay.
Patrick, you're tying a knot on. Okay.
I'm just saying, I mean, can run through the rest of the document. I do have a energy tag meeting I need to get back to
Okay.
as soon as possible, but
Okay. So can you scroll down? We'll just kind of lock in the changes to the table. Everything looks aligned there.
and if I miss something or if somebody disagrees that it
Okay.
goes above beyond that,
Well-
I just tried to make it consistent and feel like it matched better.
Okay. Okay, back to 3 then. I mean, I think I've said this before. The challenge I have is, right now, the way I understand this section, it's written as if the building code is not making the decision on the number of parking spots required, right? And it shouldn't. With units, that's development code or market, right? Is that everyone's understanding how this is written? We're not entering into that space.
No, that's how the I codes are. It's if parking is provided, this is what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And Patrick, you want it to be an and or with the number of units, right? But then is there a scenario where that starts to get into trouble with the development codes?
I don't use and or because
I know.
Angela said that's bad code language. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question for me?
Well, in this proposed change you have here, it says or the total number of, right, the dwelling units, or like, where are we going to get? What if there are no parking spaces? I guess I'm just trying to play this out of where
Well,
we're
if
going to
if there's no parking spaces, then this section doesn't apply. Oh,
Well, I mean, it's probably fine. I'm just trying to figure out,
I see what you're saying.
if we really do enter into this space, where are we going to get in trouble?
I'm confused. I guess I'm trying to figure out how that then would apply. If you're going off the number of dwelling units, how does that translate to how many EV spaces for that occupancy?
Well, I think this is a big ask, right, Patrick? I mean, this is saying, like, if somebody is parking a 3-story garden walk-up at a factor of 2 per
Mhm.
unit, right, which is pretty common, right?
Yeah.
If you go up to the current code and BFRW proposal table comparison, I have at the beginning of the table, that might help visualize what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we can look at that again. I mean, I remember it, but we can look at it. But I mean, just conceptually, what you're asking is to half to be able to cut the number of parking EV spots in half if the market is driving or something is driving the required parking at a. I'm just using that typology as
Well, the intent's not to
obviously-
be half. It would just be, so instead of like 10% of parking spaces, it would be 10% of dwelling units.
But that's what I mean. Like if somebody's parking at a factor of
Right,
2,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
common,
I
you're
guess that would be half, yeah.
creating
Yeah.
a exception and basically cutting the number of EV stalls in half.
To me, it felt like, for at least for residential, you know, it felt like to me the intent was to, you know, provide a minimum of that parking spaces would be closely tied to the number of dwelling units. But in instances where those get kind of out of whack, you can end up having to, as a minimum code, you have to put in a ton of parking spaces when you might not have, you know, a lot of use for that.
Right. But we're just entering into a whole different basis of how that's calculated. Yeah. Ken, go ahead.
So, Patrick, I just want to make sure because I'm trying to help you out here. All of your numbers that you're referring to, and I'm going to send a request to share my screen. And everything that you've been talking about is based on the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code, right?
They have an appendix for EV charging infrastructure.
Exactly. So that's what I'm just trying to figure out is if everybody's questioning where the language is coming from, it's in here. And I just didn't know if everybody that was on the committee was aware of this. And this is where he's talking about the, you know, the dwelling units or automobile parking spaces. I was just hoping that you guys understood that or not. So, and all the different, you know, numbers that he's coming up with. So I
Yeah.
just didn't know if the people that are in the audience knew that where the numbers were coming from, that he's just not making this stuff up.
Oh, right. And thank you, Ken. I mean, it is an important thing to say out loud that, you know, we're not fully adopting, obviously, the IECC, but we're comfortable bringing some of that terminology and so forth. And maybe that leads to more integration, you know, next cycle.
Yeah.
But am I correct that this is changing the basis of the way our Washington amendments are?
No, I agree. I just want to make sure that that everybody understands the code language has been vetted.
Yeah.
And then on a totally separate issue, which sort of is not separate, but energy storage systems, our battery systems, are being used to supply power also. So for EV charging stations. So I don't know if you guys have even addressed that or not. But for people that are providing energy storage systems to facilities, if anybody's even considering that when somebody's saying, well, the infrastructure's not there. Well, that's what the energy storage systems can help provide the power for those EV charging stations. So, all right, I'll be quiet. I'll get out of my.
Okay,
I'll get back in my.
You're in your lane. You're more in your lane than we are. Appreciate that. That's what I worry about is what in something you're referring back to that first thing we discussed about the power supply. We're kind of jumping ahead and assuming that, you know, we know where that power is coming from and whether it's from storage or actual grid or some other generation. And it's kind of the chicken and the egg, you know. Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure to supply all these data centers, but somebody's going to figure out how to supply them. And we got to be careful with the, you know, with how we write code to anticipate those situations. So
Thanks for clarifying that. Ken, I did if we're looking at the Word document, but on the PDF that's on the website, I put in comments. I tried to make it clear where the language was coming from, the IECC, and where it was something that I was just making up or writing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, let's go ahead, Angela.
I'd also like to point out, though, in the IECC, they also are requiring 20% EVSE spaces, not 10, and then also 75% EV capable spaces. So, I mean, we do need to keep in mind that, yes, there are these exceptions, but there are also some differences that, you know, and so we need to be careful about cherry picking out. So I guess where I see like with the R2s with doing it versus, cause yeah, like Todd said, the parking required, I think by a lot of development codes is a minimum of, 2 per unit. And it has gone down a bit because they are trying to, get people to not drive and, things like that. But that basically though in the IECC, they're requiring twice as many. So by providing that exception, they're getting exactly to where we're at, kind of thing. You know what I mean? If you're going off the dwelling units versus the parking spaces. I don't know if what I just said made any sense to anyone else, but it did in my head. So yeah, I'm not sure on moving it between dwelling units or whatever. I'm not a fan of the existing language, I think, it's in a different spot. But yeah. Like I said, not sure on this one yet.
Part of this was to thank you for pointing that out. You're absolutely right that the appendix has different percentages. Part of this was to accommodate the increase that we're doing to EV capable. Under the current code, for like a 12 unit apartment building, if they have a 2-to-1 ratio of parking spaces, they have 24 parking spaces. Under the current code, they would cap out at 12 EV parking spaces across the 3 categories. But under this increase, they would go up to having to need 16 parking spaces. Which to me, for right now, just feels really, not really, but it feels a little excessive for a minimum requirement. So I just thought for those cases, it might be, and if you're open to this, but we need to like refine it and make it a bit more narrow, I'm open to exploring that. I was just trying to make it so that if, we're not making small multifamily, having to really increase their construction costs at a greater proportion, because we're increasing the total number of spaces they have to provide.
I guess where I get into though is where we've made the jump is mostly at the EV capable, which is basically just running conduit.
Sure.
So I guess I don't see that as a major, where you say it's going from 12 to 16. Those extra spaces aren't being, pigeonholed into EV. They're not having to put in anything that's expensive per se. Running the conduit and stuff is fairly minimal in comparison to later down the line having to do it to work these in. So I guess I don't see that increase in the same way that you are.
If you reduce the EV ready and you remove the EV capable from the sizing requirements, then it would, it's still a cost increase, but it's I see what you're saying, but I'm trying to look for every little way that I can to just improve housing, supply and reduce any kind of barrier or anything that could kind of constrict that. That's not absolutely necessary.
No, again, and understood, and I don't think there's disagreement. I think that is the intent here, is we're trying to right size this to what we're regulated to do, but also to some logic that makes sense. And again, not disagreeing that dwelling units doesn't make sense. We broke that. I'm saying the table is broken out already in the R occupancies to try to isolate out the detached units, dwelling units with private garages, and those are by dwelling unit, right, basis, right? Go ahead.
An alternative is we could maybe instead, and I suggested this because I was just pulling the language directly from the IECC. But if we wanted to do something similar but different, we could just say, if these requirements would make you provide more spaces than you have dwelling units, then you only need to, you can cap out at 12, 24, 36, whatever that is.
Right.
That is actually language in the IECC.
in the IECC. I guess what I'm arguing is that we have an amendment we've been debating for a few months on this last line of the table, which is just the R occupancies, like, and that basis was on parking spaces, and the modeling we're trying to improve. I mean, it's not perfected, right? But we're trying to give a better defensible argument of growth of adoption rates and things like that. And right now, this occupancy, our occupancy, is tied to the parking spaces, and whether it's definitely not perfect, right? And maybe it should be reconsidered, but we've been debating in that structure the percentages primarily. And I feel like we're upending that if we're giving this or.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Valid points. I also talked to a person involved in affordable housing development, and they had a concern that they typically provide quite a bit of parking, but their residents tend to not own vehicles. So something like this could help those use cases as well without providing an explicit exemption for, affordable housing and
Right.
not drastically changing those requirements. But I can understand if you see it sort of out of scope of what you want the committee to do.
Out of scope, but also just the counter argument there is then they should be having that debate with why that there's that much parking, right? Whether it's a development code requirement or they overshot on the market, requirement, right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to stay out of some of that, perhaps. Angela, go ahead.
And I guess I don't know, if this exception would sort of change the 20% that we're, required to require or not. But yeah, I mean, I understand your affordable housing thing. I think that's an exception that would need to be taken up with legislators as far as doing things that are specific to actually that category. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm thinking that, yeah, number 3, based on, again, like you said, Todd, we did have massive debates on this table on the R's, and it's all based on one thing, that we do kind of stick with this, because again, I don't think our increase is in a costly category.
Patrick, can we park that one?
Sure,
No
we
pun.
can look at that for 2027, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's merit to what you're saying. I just think we're gonna have to redefine, and if the intent is in 2027 to move more towards an IECC structure, I think that's a good time to have that debate. Or if the legislature, decides they want to start taking some of this up and finding, because that, quite frankly, it would be helpful if the legislature gives us better targets and better models, to align with, or, unless there's disagreement with what we've done in rulemaking, to try to do our best to align with, a defensible public model.
I'm not sure if you want to accept all the changes visually at this point. You might want to just reject the ones you don't want, so then so the council can more easily see what's here.
And since we can't take action, what we'll do is, out of this conversation today, I think we should just try to make the changes, capture what we've talked about, it's recorded here, publish it, and make sure that we can take final action on that. And if anyone catches something that doesn't seem aligned with the decisions we made here, then.
Do you want me to send in a suggested update to the utility exception based off what you discussed today?
I think it'd be helpful for anyone to do that, and including this committee. We'll just try to do our best with the council and staff, and also try to offer language and put it and publish it. But yes, if you have better language, or anyone on this call has better language.
I know staff is busy, but I know the council meeting, you probably want to get that posted earlier, so I'll try and see what I can do.
Yeah.
And Patrick, if you send that to me, I can make sure that it gets uploaded immediately.
I think through this conversation we understand the intent, so hold us all accountable if the language doesn't capture that. Okay. Are we through that? I think we got it, right, Patrick?
Yeah, unless you want to talk about any of the grammatical changes stuff. I think the one thing that's not grammatical is clarifying the electrical rooms or areas for. But I think that's the intent you discussed last time. I just suggested or no, did I do that or did you do that?
Well, I did the red. We did the
Yeah,
red in the
sorry,
meeting.
never mind. That's a change you made. Never mind.
Yeah, I thought we came to consensus on that, didn't we? You didn't change anything there. So that red.
No,
Okay.
I got visually confused. It looks
Yep.
similar to the other changes I made.
Okay. Total number of.
And I didn't touch the 1106.
What's that last one there? Are allowed to include the total number of electric. That just aligns with the definitions.
It seemed like this section, whenever it was referring broadly to the three categories, it said charging infrastructure. So I just tried to get it to match what I thought the rest of the code was doing. But if you disagree with that, I just tried to make things more consistent.
Well, I mean, what's the intent there? Are you trying to, is that also trying to move it away from the?
It's just earlier in the section when it referred broadly to the requirements of everything, it says electric vehicle charging structure. But this was one spot where it instead referred it to electric vehicle parking spaces. And so I just thought whichever term you want to use to just make sure that whenever it's referring broadly to all three categories, just to use the same term as when it's being used in the rest of the section. Does that make sense?
Maybe. Are you trying to address your rounding concerns here?
No, it's not. It's a purely terminology change.
Okay. I might have to think about that one a little bit and try to understand it better, but okay. I think I understand the intent. Okay. Okay.
And you didn't do anything further?
No, I think that's any other comments on this? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. I'll be quiet now.
Okay, appreciate the work on that. Kathleen, do you want to go first?
Sure. Or if the other individual would like to, that's fine. They have just a comment.
Okay, yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine. And then Brandon, while we're doing that, are you able to, do you know what we're talking about? Are you able to pull up Kathleen's? It should
Yes,
be posted.
yep. Would you guys prefer the PDF or the Word?
I think of the Word document if you have it. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just 1 second.
Okay, and then we'll go back if you're still with us. Oh, maybe we lost her.
No, don't worry, I'm still here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, you're in the panelist category. Sorry, just lost you in the attendees. Okay, do you want to go ahead now, please?
Sure. And thanks so much. Sorry for not knowing quite knowing where to jump in. But I did want to offer, I'm here on behalf of Climate Solutions, and Climate Solutions does oppose any rollbacks to percentage of EV ready spaces required in the 2021 code. Obviously this came up throughout, but glad to be able to talk through it now. While increasing the amount of EV capable parking spots may appear to offset any reduction in the number of EV ready spots, EV capable spots are far less cost effective, requiring higher future costs to bring the parking spaces up to a level where EV infrastructure can be installed. Because of this, many states and local jurisdictions across the country have moved away from requiring EV-capable spaces at all for multifamily buildings. That includes San Jose, Santa Monica, the state of California itself, Chicago, and King County. Settling for EV-capable spaces will just not be enough to meet the high levels of EV adoption that Washington is projected to see in the coming decades. EVs are expected to reach price parity with ICE vehicles in just a matter of years, and access to charging infrastructure is a significant barrier for many renters who may otherwise be able to afford an EV. So requiring merely, EV capable spots does a disservice both to the multifamily building owners and to the residents, since upgrade costs will be higher than EV ready spaces. So if the committee moves forward with the current proposal, We really do ask that there are no rollbacks of existing requirements for EV-ready spaces, and we urge the committee to increase those requirements to at least 25% EV-ready spaces and 25% EV capable. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. Are you willing to take a couple questions?
I can do my best, but
Okay.
I might have Kathleen jump in and help
Oh,
me.
and that's fine too. Okay.
Great.
Thank you for that. And I think the question I have would be, can you comment a little bit on, we've tried, really hard in a public process here to establish hopefully a more defensible, better model for each one of the three categories, and balancing then also what is where we're held to, by statute to certain minimums and so forth. So in that, if I just quickly go over the concept again, the lower category is immediate adoption, but there's a bottom of 10%. So we know immediate adoption county by county in our state, anywhere usually it's single digits between 1 and sometimes up to 7-8%, right? So legislature helped out and just said minimum 10, right? That's easy. The second category, which is, I don't know if I call it a rollback, it's being right-sized to more short-term code cycle, on a 3-year cycle, and or what is aligned with financial mechanisms and so forth. So it's on that 3 to 5 year horizon where it makes sense to put a physical asset in, to invest in a physical asset that can be capitalized within that time frame. And that's where the council, or at least the committee, I think we've been talking through with stakeholders on trying to right size that so that we're not making unnecessary investments that can't be capitalized in a, say, 10-year time frame when we don't even know if the technology might be changing by then, right? And then that last category meets our statutory requirement to try to, what's the word I'm looking for? I always struggle with this in the statute, to anticipate where we're going. And so we picked that 20-year horizon. I don't know that it was ever established, and it's not written anywhere what it has to be, but we aligned with a 20-year model, which aligns with GMA requirements of comp plans of 20-year planning. It aligns with the power plan that gets updated every 5 years. And that was one of the other 5-year targets, is that number gets immediate adoption gets the planning part of it gets amended every 5 years by the Northwest Power and Conservation Council. And so that 20-year horizon is what the power plan also projects out to. So sorry, I said I was going to make that short, but I wanted to state everything for the record and see if there's any response to a better way to do it. So if we were to argue 25 in that middle category, how would we argue that don't anticipate that adoption rate within that 5-year capitalization period? Go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. So question for you, are you asking that if the buildings built under the 2024 code, could we assume that they would have a completion date of 2027 to 2028? Is that kind of that immediate time frame of what would the infrastructure need be like when this code kind of rolls out? And that's the percentage, an initial for like the immediate percentage that you're asking would need.
Well, if you go to, where is it? Is it at the bottom of this one, Brandon? If you scroll all the way down, is the Northwest Power and Conservation? No, it's in this is the BFRW language. Can you go back to the base language that I put in where we put at the end the model that we're proposing to align with? And in that, it's going off of that forecasting from Northwest Power and Conservation Council saying, right there. So if you keep going down a little bit, Washington right there, it's kind of highlighted in gray. That's saying at a 2030 time frame, the forecasted adoption rate statewide, an average is 19%, so 20%. That's why we're saying 10 plus 10 in those first two categories. And that would then also align with someone making the investment. That's the anticipated adoption rate. And then we say 2045 is a 20-year horizon. That's why we 57% or 60%. That's where that comes from. Now, whether that's the best model or not, it's a model, and but it's one that is also mandated across the region, something to point to, and it's defensible, right? We use this for power planning. So I don't know if I answered your question, Kathleen.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify what your question was.
Well, I guess the question is, if we were to argue, say 25 in that middle category, and we said 10 plus 25 is 35, how is that defensible for 2030? Now, we might argue that's very defensible in 2035. It's right there, right? And maybe we should be looking at a 10-year horizon in that middle category. But what we're hearing from the investment side, the developer side, so forth, that's outrunning, how they would capitalize a physical asset they're being required to put in place.
I'll just say
Pat-
thanks so much for walking through all of this and your question. And I'm happy to take this back to my team where more of the expertise lies. But it is a good question, so we can explore and follow up.
Yeah, no, we're trying to get this right. So thank you for the input. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with comments that Angela made last time where, personally, I think 40% is really high, but I appreciate and recognize what you did and including this, and I like, right sizing or rebalancing it. It's not necessarily trying to, and I think overall the stringency is increasing. We're going from 30% spaces to 60%. But balancing it out so that it's a better cost now. And that's what we've heard from the builders that I spoke with. They said they would rather deal with some of the retrofit costs when they know exactly, how much equipment they need, how many of their tenants are using EVs. They would rather deal with that when it comes up than have to try to front load all of it. And I think that's better for the housing crisis right now. And while I don't think it's likely that the state is going to meet its goals, I think there's a lot of market constraints there. I think the modeling that you've used here does match with the laws we have in place in matching California's EV sales program. So by 2030, almost all sales are going to be, almost 100% EV, but it's going to take a while for the total fleet to get replaced. And I think the timeline they have is, realistic in terms of what the law says. Whether or not the market gets there, we'll have to see. But I think then you've done a good job of making the code. So by 2030, we have that 20% capacity that's pretty ready to get into charging, either has EVSE or you can just install it into the EV ready spots, and then looking broader out at the EV capable. So I think the proposal that we have that the committee's put together is much better than the current code, and absolutely support moving forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else on this topic? And this isn't the end. The goal is to get this out to Sierra 102 and get more feedback at the whole council level. Okay. Okay. Kathleen, I think it's your floor. We can bring your proposal back up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, and everybody. Just to go back up to the exceptions to 429.2, if so in one of our proposals, and this appeared to be acceptable to the tag, and so since this is a coordinated proposal that you're creating, I'd like to actually see this reinserted, whereby if you've got fewer than 10 parking spaces, it's exempt for non-residential properties. but that the exception, there's not an exemption for A, E, and M occupancies. There's really no reason to be, but the less than 10 seems very reasonable. So I'd like to see this please reinserted. It was wordsmithed by tag members and verbally accepted.
Okay, maybe we better unpack this a little more. I remember this, but can you explain one more time what the current?
Yeah, so the current
Yes.
exception, it exempts basically A, M, and E occupancies, or it allows you to go with, so exception number 2, basically. So it's, you can either go with the table, or you can do worker parking, and there really is no reason. This was an arbitrary decision back when the code in 2021 was first developed. There was no reasoning behind it. And so, but it was a decision by the tag to put this exception in for A, M, and E occupancies, whereby, you know, if we look at places where people do have opportunities to park and businesses that have the opportunity to have some sort of, you know, on-site payment or ability, then it deems appropriate that A, M, and E do not have exceptions to the table.
It's all coming back to me. Yep. Oh, go ahead, Patrick. I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
Do you want me to wait until you finish going through this, or?
No, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll, I don't remember if the tag, I don't remember what the tag did on this exactly, but I do know that that exception for group A, E, and M for employee spaces comes from statute. So.
Meaning that's why it was in there?
Yeah, I don't, the one each of 200, I think that's something that the tag or committee came up with in 2021, but the statute says that for groups A, E, and M, these requirements should only apply to employee parking spaces. So even if the tag said they wanted to do that, I would have to recommend that the committee not do that, because it would conflict with the base RCW requirement.
Kathleen, this is your amendment to strike it out, right?
Correct. And I'm trying to find the RCW now that we're talking about, because I don't recall that, but I do recall the meeting that it was done at the time.
Because Kathleen, I think you're right. I mean, I remember Micah and I'm hearing Micah in my shoulder here. You know, I think there was a kind of consensus with what you're saying, but then we felt like we were held to this by statute, but
It's
yeah, I guess I would err on that item 3A in that statute, whereby it says anything in item 2 that set these parameters could be exceeded if determined that it was necessary in order to achieve the zero emission state requirements, basically. And I think this is appropriate. And I think that meets the intent of that item 3A.
okay.
It's RCW 1927 542B, FYI, in case anybody wants the reference.
Okay. Well, I guess the question for today is, do we need a little more research on that? Because we just a few of us. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to comment on the number 1. So if we're still debating the number 2, go on with that.
Don't they go together? Everything in purple, you're saying?
Okay, so for number 1, that is from the IECC, except that it's parking facilities serving occupancies other than R2. So it does not exempt out multifamily or R2s with the 10 parking spaces. And yeah.
Okay, can you say that one more time? So the concern here could be,
So yeah, so number one is exempting anything with less than 10 parking spaces. And I think it was noted that this came out of the IECC. But the IECC actually says parking facilities surveying occupancies other than R2 with fewer than 10 automobile parking spaces. So it exempts basically everything except the R2s. So it is different.
hmm,
So just to clarify, Angela, R2 would not be exempt, but everything else would. Could that text be added to item number 1?
Yeah, if we determine that the 10 parking spaces, which I think the 10 parking spaces does make sense. I mean, it's along the same lines. I mean, like accessibility, you're not required to, basically block off a spot for accessibility when you have a certain number of parking spaces, because it makes it impractical when you have that few that they could just be left empty. So yeah, I mean, I could see that exemption. The other one that's being crossed out, again, if that's per statute, then I don't know that we want to be touching it.
so I'm getting a little confused because are we exempting out though in the table the R occupancies of 1 or 2 dwelling units or dwelling units with private garages? Where is that charging language for those?
Well, there's nothing required for those. Buildings that do not contain more than 2 dwelling units, number of EV charging, not required. Dwelling
But-
units with parking
But
garages.
EV
not.
Ready's there. So that,
Well,
and that's where, yeah.
because a 1 and 2 family dwelling unit isn't an R2. It's an
Right.
R3.
right.
So it would meet under that exception, because this says for other than R2.
If
So
you use the
R1,
IECCS language.
Yes, yeah. So it
Okay.
would it's mostly apartment complexes. It's
Okay.
multifamily like that. So yeah, any single family, any townhouse, well, that's a whole different situation, but things like that. But I guess, yeah, the dwelling units with private garages are usually the townhouses. So those would fit under that, because those are considered R3 normally.
If we change the exception.
Yes, if we change the exception to say serving occupancies other than R2, and that would be, I don't know that I'm necessarily want to fall on the sword for throwing R2s back in the mix and not exempting them. I'm just, I guess, kind of pointing out that is a difference that might want to be taken into account.
Patrick?
I don't recall the tag discuss. Angela brings up, if it's pulling from the ICC and the ICC is different, that's a good conversation to have, but I don't recall the tag going over with that. And I just don't know if it's really necessary for us to tweak this when we're tweaking so much of everything else. But.
Yeah, I think the R2 seems reasonable, just because it's residents. And so it feels like they shouldn't be have an exemption from it. So I'll kind of stop there. I think it would be appropriate to keep R2 in play, having to comply with the table.
Patrick, what's that RCW again?
RCW 1927 540 subsection 2B.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess I'm thought I understood this. Now I'm confusing myself because where's the charging language that you ever have to do anything for the other dwelling units? Why are they even in there if they would be exempted out? They're an exception, right?
Mm.
I mean, is this a
You're
big
right.
hole in what we're doing here that
You're right, actually. They would always be exempt, so. But
why
you're
are they in
very,
there?
actually, that's not totally true. We do get some garages that are more than 10 vehicles, I'm not gonna lie.
But is that a hole in the code that what am I missing?
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm rereading the code now and I'm confusing myself because it seems like anything under 10 spaces is exempted. So why would you ever have a townhouse or a duplex required to have EV
Ready,
chargers?
yeah, EV
Ready,
ready.
EV ready.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I think that was a miscite.
And back, I'm glad we have the RCW up here. Isn't that right there? The accept the R3, accept the rules. Is there EV ready requirements in here for? Sorry, everyone, while we just remember what we're doing. I mean, so, okay, so 2B is obviously why we have that in there. And then C, except for rules related to residential R3. Okay. I thought we were going to get through this today. Okay. There might be a little more history here we need to remember
Yeah,
on why we have those two rows under group R. And I wasn't there, I don't remember originally, so this might be one we need to.
Micah Chappelle may have background on this, or we can go back to the old videos. There was a lot of discussion around R3, which was, I believe, his primary issue with addressing EV charging
Yeah.
in the IBC, regardless for residential. So, but he may be able to shed some light on.
I agree. I think we might need to pull in the historian.
mhm.
Okay, I think Kathleen, we're all starting to understand what you're bringing up here. So should we table this whole section and ask more questions? There might be some a better cleanup here.
Yeah, for that section. Mhm.
But we'll make sure we bring it back up and address this.
So yeah, because it sounds like there's cleanup throughout the document. So maybe we can talk about what happens next steps. This has been kind of a little bit of a different process as to.
It
Yeah.
is, and again, trust your instincts. What I'm suggesting is we as the council and the staff, we take this meeting and then we make a revision to the base document as BRFW and post it. And try to do that very quickly so that then we can all look at it again and say, yeah, that's what we talked about. And flag anything. And in this section, this is an opportunity then to go do a little research and try to capture the intent of our conversation here and make sure or if there's something we're not remembering, that's an opportunity to put it in there. So my suggestion is we get Micah and say, Micah, rewrite this capture Kathleen's, you know, intent here, or tell us why we're not remembering. I lost your, we can hear you, but it muted. I could switched mics or something.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Can we please scroll back up to that section? So I think though, so exception number 1 sounds like there's complications around it, but exception number 2, well,
Kathleen, I
I'd
think
hate
it's,
to- oh,
that's the RCW requirement. So this was, it's not clean, but this was addressing that statutory requirement. And I think it's always open for improvement.
okay. Alrighty.
Patrick, you're going to weigh in?
I was just gonna point out, you know, that the timeline to get the CR 102s prepped is very, very tight. So if you don't get this moving forward at the next council meeting, I think staff is going to be in a real bind to get that done.
Yeah, no, we're all aware of that, but thank you. Yeah. But there is time. I mean, because the embodied carbon, for example, we have it all mapped out over the month of June. So
Yeah.
we're gonna take action in July, and then everything's going forward. Go ahead, Angela.
Oh, I think 2.1 definitely needs to stay. I mean, that's spelled out in the RCW as a requirement. I'm not sure where 2.2 came from, so that's something to maybe check with Micah on.
Okay.
And then also on that exception 1, I'm not sure where it came out for only A, E, and M.
Because it exempts all R.
Well, that's not the current language, though, is it? Oh, where am I at?
Yeah, I think it is. Kathleen made the strikeout.
No, the current code language says, except for group A, E, and M occupancies on site with less than 10 parking spaces shall not be required. So the strikeout is, I guess, yeah, the strikeout is the except for A, E, M, whatever, occupancies.
Yeah.
Was that made by the tag?
I don't remember, because that's saying all R, and then every, B.
That's what I'm saying. Is this, Kathleen, did you make that change, or was that the tag made that change? Oh, can't hear you, sorry. I'm not sure why.
Let's pull up the current WAC. Maybe that's what you're asking, Angela, right?
Well, the current, yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at the 21 Washington State Code. And it has that exception includes that crossed out blue.
Yeah.
For those occupancies. So my question was, did the tag make the decision to remove that language? Was that included in what they sent to us, or is that a change that is being made right now, like the change to cross all this off? Because the crossing off of 2, I believe, if I understood, was Kathleen's edit, or King County's, not the tag.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, you are correct, Angela. And the crossing out of A, E, and M in exception 1 was also King County's.
Right.
Everything in blue is
Current.
Kathleen, what you submitted. Everything in red was what the base BRFW.
Correct.
Yep.
But the original exception, why A, E, and M were excluded from exception 1, I think was just because they were just clumping them all together in exception 2, and so exception 1 was covering everything else.
Oh, I'm sorry. That says except for group A. My sorry, I've just lost my mind.
No, it's really odd how it's written. And the item 2 under exception 2 was brought up in the tag. It didn't fall under the RCW. They were looking at like stadiums and talking about super high assembly occupancies for which there aren't a ton of examples around the area and across the state, and that they were just looking at potential impacts to some of these huge assembly occupancies, I believe.
Mhm. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
if I may just add final notes, I appreciate all of the work of this tag. I'm hopeful that we don't roll it back so far. That is my concern. That is the county's concern. We have climate goals. Our partnering jurisdictions have climate goals, and you know, with the loss of the NEVI funds from the federal government, we no longer have that 71 million unless they can get it back somehow for infrastructure across our interstates and highways, and so there needs to be a sweet spot for how we can accommodate the growth that's going to have based on the other state policy or mandate of the zero emission vehicle requirements. And I think that's going to jump in faster than we anticipate. And so I'm hopeful that in public comments, that a sweet spot will emerge. Also, the utility reports that this is based off of the 60%, you know, that data set is from, you know, 6 years ago. And so I know that they're updating that currently, and we're trying to receive and kind of see if those numbers have changed. So anyways,
Kathleen, can you say it one more time? So this is from the 8th power plan, right? And you're saying that data was from 5 or 6 years ago when they were doing that.
yeah, because it was from
And it's-
the
understood.
reports, yeah.
So
And they do have the data sets now because they are presenting actively to all of the states their projections for future, and so we're trying to access that just to see really what the reality is.
Kathleen, if
yeah.
do you think we can get a hold of those new models? And
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do
Okay.
right now. And if I can get it, then I'll absolutely send it along.
I think if that's a possibility, that would be better, because nothing define. I mean, we're trying to define and give more certainty what the model is. So if we can get
Right.
better, I'm doing the same on the housing side as they're starting to get their incoming data from NEA on
Nice.
the commercial building stock and so forth. And so if we have the better information, we don't need to wait for the power plant to use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Yeah.
other thing, Kathleen, that you and I talked about, I think I'd like to raise here is these are the state averages, because in that data set, we only have the state averages. Well, we know we have the county kind of more current adoption by month, right? And I think one thing would be is to try to future-proof this for counties that want to up that, because obviously that's always a possibility that you as a jurisdiction overwrite that. And then in my understanding, because this affects residential, it would have to come back to the building code council. But if we can talk about that in advance, how that process could be streamlined for local adoption, because I don't think it's going to be that many counties that have the adoption rates that King County does.
No, yeah, when we looked at the data, you know, basically 9 of the 10 largest counties across Washington are also the highest, you know, EV sales, which makes total sense, right? But unfortunately, the jurisdictions don't have the capacity to really even attempt going to the State Building Code Council and making that ask or doing the local amendment. They just don't have the resources. That's why they have people like me and, you know, others here and to help that along. So
Although I guess, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I guess my
no, it's
question
just more
is
complicated.
can we get help on how that might be adopted by local ordinance or what it might be? So we have this prepackaged as much as we can, just, you know, to anticipate that it's probably the 3 buildable land counties that would do this, right? Most likely.
Possibly. Yeah, but even there, that's what I'm trying to share is that I write code for jurisdictions and offer my services to help them with local adoption, and very few even have the capacity to take me up on it. So that's why we're starting to try and do more and more work at the state, because we just can't get local movement because they don't have the resources.
Okay. I mean, unless someone knows better than I do, I don't think the council has the authority to be able to go in by county. But if
Yeah.
someone knows better than I do and can help on how we could prepackage it, the answer might just be we can't, and that's okay. But
Yeah, I mean, like, are you thinking maybe an appendix route where, but still you have to get the local vetting and the buying off from the uppers, and it's still the internal process.
Angela's smiling. Am I going too far in trying to?
I think if you want to create sort of a prescriptive option that is more that is higher in requirements, that would be something where during the our adoption process, it would need to be like an appendix that would be an option for a jurisdiction to adopt instead of the code requirements that were in the body. I don't think off book we could sort of create a package that is like, hey, if you want to use this, just come in. Somebody else could do that as far as preparing something that then jurisdictions could just submit to SBCC for approval to be adopted by ordinance by their jurisdiction. But as far as like the council, in order for us to package something like that, it would have to be in the code somewhere.
Angela, are there other precedents in the code that reference a database or by another agency? I mean, is there a here's the number or by published?
We use standards, and it's kind of they don't usually depend on a moving target.
Yeah, they're frozen, right?
It's basically we're taking a snapshot in time. This is what we're doing.
Because when we wrote like the tsunami codes comes to mind, and we're referencing DNR maps, they have to be frozen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just go to this link and whatever's current. It's
WUI, things like that. I mean, the FEMA maps, I think, are one thing that might shift a bit because you can get those edited sort of on the fly sometimes as far as for flood. But other than that, things are just it's a snapshot, and it's
okay.
You get another bite at it in another 3 years for it to go into effect in 6. It's a whole.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although either the local jurisdiction can adopt, and I think it comes back to the council, which is probably not overwhelming because it's probably just a handful of counties. I hear what you're saying, Kathleen, on the county side it might be, or jurisdiction side, it might be a challenge. Or the legislature tells us and sets some actual targets this next session and says, council, go do this. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Well, I think we made progress, but go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the suggestion to go back to 25% EV ready. I think the way that the current BFRW proposal is palatable to the construction industry only because of the combination of the reduction in EV ready, transferring that to EV capable. The increase in EV capable is palatable because of that reduction, and then also the change in the sizing equipment requirements. That's what creates the offset where we're actually lowering construction costs now while increasing capacity in the future. And I think that's the bright, balanced approach to take. But if the committee or the council were to not reduce the EV ready, that would really change the financial outlook, the economic outlook of this proposal. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I'll give you my personal opinion. I think we have a defensible balance right now. If a new data set became available and changed that number, we could adjust, right? We're following a process here that I think is defensible. Or if someone makes a very strong argument that the 5-year horizon aligned with the frequency of those updates and all these other things we talked about was 10 years, but that's not what we're hearing from the developer side. It's just too long of a time frame. So I think it'd be hard to make that argument to ask for that investment on projects. So Okay. Anything else on this topic? Do we understand what we're going to go forward? We're going to grab the rest of the committee and publish an updated, edited BRFW version to try to capture what we discussed today. Go ahead, Angela.
So we didn't have a quorum.
We did not.
So are any of the changes that, say, the two of us made today to the document that was previously agreed upon, are those just our personal suggestions?
Yeah, we're sticking our necks out. No, what I think what I'm hoping to capture in what I'm suggesting here is that we'll make these edits, we'll put them in a different color, right? So that it's very clear what was the base document, what this, I'll put in blue or something else like that. And then I think what we're really saying is we're going to present that to the other committee members, watch the video and get caught up. And then Roger figures out when we're going to take action on this to get it to the council, knowing that we have a special council meeting next Friday. But Patrick, I don't think that's the end game because we still have the embodied carbon. So if this had to wait and ride with the embodied carbon amendment, if it goes forward, we have planned to take action on that in July. And just so everyone knows why we're having a special council meeting next Friday, I think I'm correct on that. We need to move the energy, I believe it's the residential energy code petitions down to the tag. That was the main driver to get that scheduled so they could start officially taking action on those items. And then I think we're also going to use the opportunity to move forward the mechanical dampers, the fire dampers that moved out of this committee. Just move that into the CR 102 package. So, okay. Anything else? So if we're good on that, we'll close out agenda item 4. Any other business? Go ahead, Ken.
Thanks. So this week I got contacted by Sound Transit regarding the 2021 Washington State Building Code and 2021 Washington State Fire Code, that they were not correlated for the sprinkler requirements for the fixed transit. So my question to staff is, do we have a CR 105 that is in development for all the editorial changes things that were missed during the CR 102 process? I went through the hearings, I went through the minutes, and it's pretty obvious that the proposal was supposed to include the changes from that were proposed in the fire code and building code to match. So I don't know if if staff has got CR 105 already developed for the building code or not. That's my question.
For 2021 or?
Yeah, no, 2021.
Yeah, so
our existing code. Yeah,
I got you. Okay.
Because they're having problems because the fire code has exceptions for sprinklers and the building code does not. And so since the building code trumps the fire code and our RCW, we're having conflicts and it needs to get addressed.
Okay.
So that's my ask.
Okay, Ken, I'll look into that with the staff, and if there's something we can do to even take action as early as next week, we'll see how fast we can go.
I took a note down. I'll reach out with Dustin and
Okay.
have a conversation about it today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, anything else? If not, thank you everyone for the time today. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.